I love this top. This is resawn black walnut. Made a beautiful heart. I put a Padauk bottom in it, and the lid liner is white oak. This is a double cremation urn. I made this for my parents. My father recently passed away, and we've been holding my mother's ashes because they wanted to be buried together. I'm resawing this black walnut. It came from a 1 3/8 inch thick slab that I've had for a while. I made this little jig right here. It's, pretty basic. There's a little video out on it if you want to look it up. But I just mitered the corners. Here I'm kind of test fitting it. It came out really nice. That little jig is a handy tool to have. I resawed that Padauk also, and then I glued that up while I was gluing up that lid. I'm sure you can imagine my surprise when I resawed this and found that heart within that. I really, at that point, did not want to foul that up. I wanted to try to preserve that heart as a focal piece for this cremation urn. And it really turned out quite nicely. I cut some grooves in for the Padauk bottom, and then I cut in a rabbet for the top. I'm using these gauges here just to set my setbacks, and they're handy to have. Here I'm just going to go slow and try to minimize my chip out and just keep banging this thing out as I'm going through this. There was a lot of reflecting on my lifetimes with my parents, and this was really satisfying. And when we were having this funeral service, just having this box right there in the receiving line was so powerful to me because it was such a source of pride, and so many people, brought that up, or if things got a little tough, you could just kind of tell the story about making that box and how fantastic that heart was. It's almost a shame to bury that box. I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. Makes me feel good to know that my parents are going to be resting in a place with such love that they provided for me in my life. That center panel stands a little proud on that box, and so I wanted to make sure that I had really clean cuts. I took my time, I went slow, and I taped up the edges. I just creeped up on the final size, just shaving off ever so slightly to get the fit just the way that I wanted it. Now you can see that blue tape there. I did a pretty good job of taping and trimming. I wanted to minimize all the squeeze out that I could, so I didn't want to have to get in there and try to mess around with cleaning this up. I literally finished this about 3 days before the funeral service, so it was kind of a last minute. I didn't have time to make any mistakes. I just had to get it done, I had told my dad I was going to make this for him. I wished I had made it long before I did, and that way, he could have seen it. I wanted dead flat sides and bottom on this, so this sandpaper is mounted onto a pretty thick piece of glass that I use spray adhesive to adhere the glass to the 3/4 inch sheet of plywood behind it also. Here I cut it all the way through on 3 sides, left about a 1/16 of an inch, sawed it off with my pole saw, and here I'm just cleaning up some of the little marks with this low angle plane. I typically use this sandpaper on smaller items. I should have stripped off the sandpaper and put 2 or 3 large sheets oriented longwise on that glass, it would have been a little easier, but I didn't do that. Here I'm ripping down 4 pieces of white oak using this thin rip jig here. It's pretty handy. And I cut them to 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just dropping these in as lid liners. Here I'm using my T-Rex push stick. Unfortunately, you're looking at the back side of it. The carving is all done on the other side. It's kind of cool. This wood was really hard. You're going to see it free up. There it goes. It was like pushing through rock. Here, I flipped the head around. You can see the dinosaur head now. And everybody's favorite part, I'm just using some spray-on lacquer here. I think I put 4 coats on this. I sanded with 4/0 steel wool, and I think it turned out really pretty. Here's the little glamour shot section. Check out that heart. Wow. Hey, I want to give a little tribute if you guys want to stick around. This is from the service. There's some pictures of my mother and my father through the years, my siblings, and some family photos. Hey, thank you, everybody. Please enjoy.
Is that pretty good? Did you get your picture taken? You gonna send me a picture?
I didn't.
You didn't? You didn't get a picture taken?
Yeah, I went over to the bookstore.
And whenever you left his house, this is what you saw.